Oh, hello. We went live. I didn't realize it. We're like playing 2 seconds. I was looking around my screen. Hello, everyone. Yeah,
Hi.
here we are. The dynamic duo of
Not
Christian
so dynamic. Yeah.
of the Christian metal churchianity.
This is as dynamic as it gets. Yeah.
Yeah, we were supposed to be live 2 weeks ago, but Roger, you had some health issues.
Yeah.
So
Not
I
not
was
a real
sitting
bunny.
here and like, where you go? And we lost a Christmas special opportunity, so no Christmas special for this
Our
year.
mid-January Christmas special. Yeah.
We can do it on February, like in retrospect, like or like for Easter.
I suppose we could have done it this week. It's Chinese New Year. That's close enough to Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, if you think like um, the Eastern Orthodox Church celebrates Christmas on the 5th of January,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like comes along. It's like it's not that late. Depending which diary you, which calendar you follow. The
Christmas every day.
Chinese, the Gregorian, or the Julian.
Should say it's a lunar New Year, not the Chinese, because other Asian cultures get very offended that it's referred to as a Chinese New Year. Apparently.
So
So
it's
that's
not
my
just the
that's my
Chinese.
little bit of woke for this evening.
I didn't know that.
It's the lunar New Year now. Because the
I don't even
Vietnamese
know
got
what's
upset.
it, why is it Chinese New Year. So I never really look. I'm an information junkie, so I collect useless information. But this one I haven't looked it up.
I only know this because if you go into the Chinese takeaway on the right day, they give you a calendar or something and smile sweetly.
No free food.
No, not free food.
I'm not interested. It's
Right.
not interesting.
What
It's
are we talking
okay.
about tonight, George?
Actually, yeah. So tonight is I haven't got a clue what we're talking about. But it was like we were kind of talking about the what we're gonna talk tonight, and my idea was a bit of like heaven and hell, and if so, it's the whole thing sparked from a conversation I had with a minister, and we were talking about like how Christians why Christians do what they do, and we were talking about a lot of different things, and he said he quoted like John Lennon. It's like imagine there is no heaven. Will it still worth it to follow Jesus? But we're not gonna talk about this tonight because then
I was ready then. I was in.
no, because we said that will be next time, but then we kind of talking and then you said like, oh, something about like the afterlife and heaven and hell with like you actually sent me the Black Sabbath.
Yeah,
We
I
were
was,
using the Black Sabbath heaven and hell cover,
this is the
which
first thing I thought of.
Facebook rejected it because like they thought we're promoting smoking
Oh,
because the angels
yeah.
are smoking there. So I got a message back that your adverts got rejected because of the tobacco rules. Because
Wonderful.
apparently, on Facebook, Facebook is fine to sell your personal details, but smoking is bad.
But not if you're smoking.
Well,
So we could have had fires and lakes of sulphur from the average Slayer
or selling people's personal details.
and demons and such like, but we can't have a cigarette.
No,
Marvelous.
demons are fine as long as they're not smokers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they can burn but not smoke.
yeah, no.
So it's about my level this evening.
Even that being a Monty Python's episode. Anyway, so it pretty much like that. I'm kind of waiting for you to lead today.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
So because we
Okay.
kind of the whole idea how metal treats afterlife. So kind of we caught up on your. So what metal has to say about the afterlife?
I guess
So there was-
my only thought was that it sort of comes up a lot, really. I mean, obviously we all know that you get to heaven via a stairway, and it's a very wide highway to the other place. So yeah, it's just sort of thinking in general chat about what people actually think heaven is, what hell is, whether there's any biblical sort of background for any of that. Much like the Christmas thing, there's a lot of stuff talked about Christmas and the Christmas story. Vast majority of it doesn't actually come from the Bible. It's folk myth and appropriation of other religions and Victoriana. So
But also that innkeeper on Christmas Story. I mean, the thing is, like, most of my life I was reading the Bible in Greek. So the first time I came across the King James Bible, it was like 10 years ago. So I didn't have a clue an innkeeper even exists. I was my first Christmas in an English church. And it's like, there is an innkeeper, like, from where this guy came from. Like
I'm not sure it's in many other translations, to be honest.
It's like, where is he? What is he doing here? So it was because, yeah.
I mean, that's getting into the last talk that we didn't have, but I mean, they were going to Bethlehem because that's where the family were, so they'd have stayed with family.
Well, are we doing a Christmas special?
we could end up doing a Christmas special, especially if you think I'm leading on this. I think
you have more time. You have more time under your belt meeting those things, leading those things.
Yeah. What people's idea of heaven is, because I mean, you get
there are 3 people watching, so it might be nice to
be welcome comments below.
To hear read their comments. So as we were talking, so I mean, main topic, So
what do you think of when you think of heaven? Fluffy
Dave
clouds?
so we have an evening. Hello, Dave. I try to. I need to think about phrasing that quite carefully because, like, I don't want us to become far too controversial tonight.
It's all personal opinions and.
Yeah, but you know how it is. I mean, heaven is like a place where, like, like the paradise thing. For me, it's a waiting place.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm more like Andy Wright wrote a lot about this. So I'm a lot like in line with what he's saying. So basically, he described it also the life after the life after death.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like believers die and they go to heaven, where they kind of stay there and just hanging about. It's like the Abraham's bosom that we read in the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. And so after the restoration, everyone's kind of returning back to earth. So what we call in heaven for me is like an interim. I believe it's an interim stage. So where you go there and hanging about, and I don't know what you're doing there. We don't have a lot of the fun thing. We don't have a lot of details about the afterlife, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's sort of what came to mind when we were talking about subjects and such like, because it is one of these topics. I mean, everything from the sort of fluffy white clouds with angels and harps and the bearded man.
Sounds kind of boring to me.
I suppose there's a fair few out there that would like it to be some sort of glorious Valhalla sort of place.
Yeah. If it's a glorious Valhalla, maybe a mosh pit there as well. So. drinking mead and like partying and.
Well, I mean the only real sort of description, I guess, that certainly is sort of prevalent in the Bible is the Revelation.
I just realized it says drinking meat, and we are with the Salvation Army podcast. So, I
Yeah,
don't know. My salvation is maybe allowed to drink after death.
it's fine. Blame the Anglicans.
It's your fault.
We
you,
drink.
you draw me down to the pit of unholiness.
There must be some Anglicans in heaven. It's just probability.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Revelation 4 gives John the Divine a glimpse of heaven.
Yeah.
Which basically revolves around a very large throne, and the rest of it is pretty much indescribable. I mean, it reads like a serious trip. I've actually got. I can find it in front of me. A throne with someone sitting on it. The one who sat there had the appearance of jasper and ruby. A rainbow that shone like an emerald circled the throne. Surrounding the throne, 24 other thrones with 24 elders, dressed in white and crowns of gold on their head. Flashes of lightning, rumbles and peals of thunder. 7 lamps blazing, which are the 7 spirits of God. Before the thrones, a sea of glass clear as crystal. And then it gets into a whole lot of sort of weird creatures and such like, which have traditionally been depicted as the gospel right, as a sort of the ox, eagle, and
Too many eyes.
and yeah, lots of creatures with 6 wings and more eyes than you can count.
That's angels, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, by no means an expert, but on the symbology. But I think a lot of it derives from sort of the sort of Hebrew spiritual
Scatology.
sort of pantheon. Yeah, but it's a seriously weird read. But basically everyone in the various sort of echelons of those surrounding the throne are worshipping God.
Yeah.
Which I suppose if you're face to face with the creator of everything, it's probably a good reaction.
But you know what? I understand that. I'm not gonna go into arguing if, because like the Book of Revelation through the Christian through the church history was a very controversial book. Come on, what's his name? Oh, my please go. Luther didn't. He hated it. The Book of Revelation. He didn't include it. Yeah, Luther's canon excluded the Book of Revelation. So it is a bit controversial book within the Christian circles as well. Like it's been removed from canons and then be added again. So there's a lot like to be said. I'm not gonna go into this, but I get the whole like apocalyptic slash like it was like a trance state that John was.
Yeah. I mean, it's a description of a vision at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it was all the symbolism there, but I found it quite difficult to accept that God, the same God that's been described in a lot of places so tenderly, like a father, like a mother, like a mother goose, like a gentle breeze, and Jesus coming like to reconcile all humanity and bring it back to reconcile humanity with God and bring everyone back to God's family, to be that unapproachable, super duper glorious being. Which I understand the argument on, like, in our current state we cannot face God because of our imperfect nature.
Yeah. And it's a human interpretation of a vision of something spiritual.
But at that stage we won't be in that imperfect condition. Obviously we will keep learning God and learning about Him to all eternity, but you will still be in a purified form, isn't it? So
as would we, yeah.
So for me it's more about like John and his current human state. Like he wasn't capable to. But also it comes down to like to the whole like Jewish and Hebrew eschatology and all different yes shades and interpretation of a vision. And I have heard that with people all the time, like like people will see someone in the sleep. I mean, those are very common, like in Greece. And one person say it was my dead grandfather, another was like that saint. So it's kind of like you saw a person, you saw something, and your brain actually, it's like a, it's a very natural process. Then your brain fills up the gaps,
Yeah, and tries to
depending
make
what.
something recognizable out of it.
Yeah, so it won't be like that vague thing, and it doesn't minimize the spiritual meaning of the whole thing. It's just like how our brains been created. God made it this way. Like, go argue with him. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I
think-
didn't create the human brain. I'm just, bring, I'm just bringing information of the research, saying this is how the brain works. Like, okay,
yeah, no, I mean, my reading of this chapter in Revelation, certainly, I mean, without getting into the sort of the Armageddon and the horsemen and all the rest of it, but it's very much a human attempt to describe the indescribable. It's a very, it's a model. It's if you just read it in a normal voice, it doesn't make, it just doesn't work. If you read it as it was bright and there was light shining and thunder rolling and it was all over
probably put like Christopher Lee to read it or something like.
yeah,
Isn't it? He was doing those very very epic readings, like.
yeah, it needs epic because it's trying to get across a concept. I think. I mean, for a start, heaven isn't a physical realm. We're not going to experience it as we experience Chatham. Hopefully it's a bit brighter.
Let's blink.
Sorry, Chatham. Love you really.
I live in Gillingham, so
Yeah, not. Let's not go there. But you know what I mean. It's
yeah.
it's putting into visual expression a set of feelings,
Yeah.
and I guess the experience is one of wonder or worship. How do you describe that? It's
And I
but
think
an
for
awful long
John,
way
it
from
was-
the fluffy clouds.
And also, for John, it was a very unique experience, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
he got used of living with the actual Jesus, which also the family members. I think they were like first
If it was
cousins.
if it was
think-
the
I
Saint
think-
John.
I mean, if you accept, like, for the sake of the argument, let's don't go there. Like, that's another
if you want
rabbit hole.
controversy,
Yeah. If
given
we accept, like, from tradition that was John,
the gospel
the-
writer.
the gospel
Yeah.
writer, then
Yeah.
let's keep it simple. He got used, and he knew Jesus from very early age, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
they were like, their mothers were sisters, I
Mm.
think, if I remember correct. So they kind of almost grew up together.
And I mean, regardless of family ties, I mean, in the gospel, John describes himself as the disciple Jesus loved. He sort of, had that special bond.
Yeah. It's not about me. Like, I won't mention it like 300 times in my letter.
Yeah, it just sounds a little bit vainglorious, I must admit. But, and all these other guys, and
It's
the
hu-
disciple that Jesus loved,
Yeah,
this
but
guy.
it's kind of it's human, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
It's like it's like you can say like it's a bit like it sounds a bit like selfish, but kind of it's
it sort of
like
adds
human. Like
authenticity, doesn't
you
it?
like to be the one that
Yeah.
Jesus loved the most. Like
Who does Jesus love? This guy. But yeah, I mean, I think there's various debate about whether it was a different John that spent his night on the Bear Mountain in Cyprus. But I mean, regardless, it's just as I say, it's describing the indescribable.
Yeah.
But I guess personally, and it's all personal views. but it sort of sums up how, whatever you visualize. It is that sort of the idea of being in the presence of God. I don't know, whether justified in the life of faith for one thing, so feeling a bit smug, but also in total awe of the creator of the universe.
Yeah, yeah. But if you say like
You just worship,
in general, like the whole of the Bible, we have very limited information about the afterlife.
Yeah, it's a
mean,
promise, but it's
even
not
Jesus.
described.
I mean, I don't think I can point somewhere, and I would say that Jesus was there. I don't believe Jesus ever spoke about the afterlife.
No,
Like
but he
it might
did,
like
yeah.
it may have spoken to about the afterlife. Obviously, we don't know. We don't have it, but what has been recorded, I think it might like referencing the afterlife. But his direct message was always about this life.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
it's like save yourself for this current generation. Sorry, someone's coming. Sorry, this happening when you're doing live. My son is with an ear infection. His mom wanted to check when I gave him painkillers. So you can't
That's all
stop a Greek mom from your boy. So,
Absolutely. Any mum.
so saying like when like Jesus was saying like preach the message and save yourself for this current wicked generation. I don't know why on earth that's been used for an afterlife, but especially just for this generation. It doesn't say about something that's coming. I mean, obviously, like as Paul was saying, if we only hope of this life, we are like nothing. But the message was about this life.
Yes.
How you treat your neighbors, your the people around you, how you treat creation. I mean, even the way you kill the animals you eat. You can't like torture an animal and eat it. Like you have to like, do it quickly. And so that would be food for you, but like treat it with like, don't treat it like nothing, but it doesn't feel anything. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
we've excuse me. We've been doing a series of talks for a couple of months now in our church on the Sermon on the Mount, and it's basically, I mean, sort of Matthew 4 through to 6. It's basically lifestyle teaching, but with a view to being reconciled to God. And
But this reconciliation will be in the
so,
afterlife. But,
I mean, but it's as sinful mortals, we can only approach that reconciliation. Actually achieving it, I think, is probably beyond us. And maybe theologians who disagree. So I guess sort of my concept of heaven is actually attaining that reconciliation, which maybe ties in with your idea, the loving God rather than the vengeful one smiting whatever.
But sometimes, like I think sort of like arguments going on Facebook, and I mean, recently I don't really get into this kind of arguments. Depending of a friend, I may make a comment on my own as a comment to the original post, and then like 20 people will jump in and kind of tell me that I'm wrong. And so it was like the latest was like about the rapture. So
Okay.
I mean, trigger alert. I don't believe in rapture, so I don't know. Take it like live. But anyway, so for me it was like, okay, even if it happens, like okay, like happened, like who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I was wrong. Okay, so okay, and the rapture happened. Okay, like okay. I mean, I don't think God will judge me what I believe, if I believe the rapture or not. the far more important things that Jesus spoke. That
Yeah, I think it's easy to lose the sort of core message, wondering about all the things that you can't actually say. You know, they're all predictions. Certainly, anything in Revelation, it's a vision. You know,
yeah, yeah.
it's a prophecy. It's, you know, we'll wait and see, and we'll only know in hindsight.
But
Much
then
much the
again,
same as
what's exactly what? Because I think like not Christians in particular, like people in general, they're obsessed of like knowing the future, and I think that's why
Hmm.
the the Christians' obsession with the end and the sorrow and the rapture is so big because like I need to know the future. I can't stand not knowing the future. And in a way, if you think about this, you don't trust. You cannot fully trust God that whatever is going to happen, it's going to happen the way He wants it to happen.
yeah,
And again, to say that I'm not pointing this lack of trust to God as a sin. I point it as as an imperfection.
Hmm.
So it's something that you need to work with yourself and like trust even more. A lack of trust, I don't think will take anyone. Will send him away from God at the end. It's kind of you make your life miserable basically without you
yeah.
just torturing yourself and like God told you don't have to do it. That's like just
Well, the level of trust certainly talked about in the Psalms.
yeah. I mean,
It's
to be
a
honest,
very extreme level of trust, and you're
yeah,
doing
trusting
well if you can live
God,
up to that.
trusting God is like, and it's one of the harder things that like God had taught me and still teaching me. It's like because I'm in the last few months I go through a lot in my personal life. I always keep praying. It's like, and the only thing I get from God, like, you know, like trust me that I know what I'm doing. And it's like, thank you very much, mate. Like, this is not the answer I was looking for. Like,
Yeah,
thanks for nothing.
that dreaded T word. Yeah,
Like,
we're all good at that.
this is not what I want to. I want to hear.
Yeah,
Like, you know that. But it's kind of like, it's like that. Okay, with like a, you know, okay.
right. Well, that's heaven. I guess,
Yeah.
you know, in the context of metal, we're probably better versed in images of hellfire and damnation and demons and
I
such
think
like.
the early metal bands they were about heaven or in their spirituality. Like even
Mm,
I mean we saw like the early Black Sabbath, especially the songs. Come on, Geezer Butler wrote. They were
yeah,
very spiritual, but even then, when Dio joined Black Sabbath, he wrote like I mean most of his songs are basically spiritual songs. And they may not be Christian. Like Dio grew up as Catholic.
yeah. Well, I
It's
think
kind
Geezer
of
did as well. So, by
sorry.
the sound, some Geezer did as well. I think from the lyrics, at least.
Yeah, but like
There's a
Dio,
lot
he
of
wasn't
Catholic.
like a prophet. He wasn't describing himself as a Christian. So I think he lost his Christian faith,
Mm,
but he's remained a spiritual person. So was always like was looking for. And even his songs, I mean his lyrics at that point that out like there's always like of there's something more. What is this something more like
yeah,
we're not just born, live and die. So it's kind of so I think in a way he was expressing his own year for bigger meaning basically. But
yeah,
there was like a lot of spirituality there, like that.
yeah, and a big sense of good and evil. It's, you know, like
And
all
it's
things
funny.
and the
Like I
like.
don't
And,
know if like it's a if like Dio made the horns, introduced the metal horns,
yeah, not Gene
and
Simmons. Sorry.
Gene Simmons discovered gravity, introduced gravity as well. Like, or to quote Dio himself, since he was probably found in breathing as well. But it was an interesting story, like what Dio was saying. Like it was something like his grandma was an immigrant from Italy. They were doing this as it was a protection, like a protection spell.
Yeah, it's warding off the evil eye, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like a word, like the evil eye. It was like a thing probably they were doing from it. And she would say something, so it was like a casting out the evil, and she would do this symbol. So basically, what Dio was doing all the time, he was kind of blessing the people, like and
Yeah.
warding out evil.
Yeah.
So because there's like a big thing around the Christian circles, like can Christian metalheads do the horns? But
Do the
like,
horn.
if you think about it, it's actually it's a Christian symbol, basically.
I went through the same thing myself. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been through that thought process, and
It's not a Christian; it's a symbol of good,
yeah,
basically. Let's put it this way.
it's a warding off evil.
Yeah. So
but-
yeah, I mean hell is an even more controversial matter within the Christian. I mean, it's seen like some, especially older, like icons that could be like on the most like brutal death metal cover. Like Cannibal Corpse could have them on the.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you've ever read Dante, the Inferno, you get a decent translation. It's a good read. But the description of the torment of various subsets of sinners, which led, of course, to lots of Renaissance art depictions of spiky-headed demons with long tails and pitchforks and sort of fire and lakes and such like, which have sort of led into, I think, the sort of common conception of what hell's looks like.
Mm.
I think
a lot of others. I don't know from where Dante got inspired to writing the Divine Comedy, but a lot of what when we describe in hell is massively influenced from the Norwegian mythology.
which also had a hell, of course. Yeah,
Yeah, a little. Like it was the goddess Hel,
yeah,
which
Who-
she
who
was
was ruler of the
ruling
underworld.
Hell.
yeah.
But Hell. The funny thing, like Hell, it wasn't with fire. So Hell was was a place in the Norwegian mythology. That Hell was a place of steam, of basically fog, mist,
Okay,
a
yeah.
foggy place, a misty place. So the fire was. I try to remember the realm. There was another realm which was full of fire, which was like where the fire giants were living. So
Right.
and the fire giants, they wouldn't exist. They would come. Noah saw a fire giant. They will come into appearance to trigger Ragnarok.
Mm.
So it's kind of like of a mix of a lot of different imageries, but also hell was the place where people that died a non-glorified death. So if you didn't die in battle, you're going to hell.
With a sword in your
to
hand.
Yeah. So instead of going to Valhalla, you're going to hell, but you
Yeah.
kind of living as a disembodied spirit and like just wandering around for all eternity. Quite miserable and boring. Where the warriors were like feasting in Valhalla.
Slapping each other on the back and having good fights. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you're reading something for fun, it's quite exciting.
Yeah.
Well, that
I mean, it makes for good historical fiction. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
or fantasy fiction. And so we've got all these images of flames and, say, demons with pitchforks. I thought actually sort of see what was in the Bible about hell. And I mean, in terms of naming it, I think the Old Testament, it's never called hell for a start.
I don't
It's
think it
referred to
mention a place of eternal
Sheol
torment,
or
isn't it?
yeah, but it's very vague in the Old Testament, and as far as I
Yeah.
can see, the only sort of references to lakes of fire and burning sulfur and all the rest of it are very much a New Testament thing, which I found interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not, haven't really thought through the implications of that.
So let's say post Christ era, not just.
Yeah, I mean it's
Because what we mean with hell today, it's been developed. The whole idea has been developed through the centuries, and
yeah, absolutely. But I mean the Old Testament is referring to sort of really just a sort of a place of endless torment, and that's about as far as it goes.
what you referencing?
I've got to find it now.
What you say the Gehenna?
Yeah, or Sheol.
Yeah,
You do get a
Gehenna.
you do get a reference in oh, that's New Testament as well. Hang on, I've got a pile of references here, and they're all New Testament basically. Yeah, so Daniel
Because
12.
Gehenna wasn't. It was created. It was. I think it was like a couple of centuries BC or something. That the actual place was behind Jerusalem was it being used. They were sacrificing children basically.
Hmm.
So it was considered like a cursed place, like the actual place, and they were dumping bodies. Crucified bodies that no one claimed,
Right.
basically. So they're just dumping them there. It's completely because if no one claims your body, it was like completely no one wants you, basically. Well, in the Old Testament and through the Jewish tradition, that's what Jews don't believe in hell.
In Daniel, I found one of the references.
I mean, like
it-
modern day Jews, that they don't
Yeah.
believe in a hell.
Well, yeah, because the Old Testament doesn't talk about it much.
Yeah.
You know, as a contrast to everlasting life, the alternative, according to Daniel 12, is shame and everlasting contempt, and which is more of a mental than a physical suffering.
I think what most Old Testament scholars coming to is that, and even non-believers, so surprisingly, non-believers also do religious studies. They quite like them, some of them. They kind of coming into that through the Old Testament, the most likely belief or scenario was that the ones we suppose believe that they go to hell, they actually cease existing.
Okay.
So it's like they never existed. So everyone will forget about them. They will like. So there's no eternity. There's no eternity for them, like at all. It's pretty much
Okay.
what most
Alright.
atheists believe. So,
Yeah.
So you live, you die, and you live. You're born, you live, you die, and then that's it. You become part of the universe again, like or start or whatever your philosophy.
So I think a description of hell I heard once, which I sort of liked, was, I mean, it had nothing to do with lakes of fire and such like, and all the sort of New Testament imagery, but it was that sort of existence, or sort of a nothing existence, distance from God, but knowing that there is a God. And the sort of the torment being, it could have been so much better and I got it wrong. And had I mean, obviously it's down to sort of having the opportunity to get it right, which is why we're called to spread the gospel. But that just in the same way as I think if you were face to face with God in heaven, the only sort of logical reaction would be to worship. Utter suffering would be to be sort of cut off forever with no hope of redemption.
I mean,
In the full and certain knowledge that there was
Yeah.
redemption that could have been had.
I have a love and hate relationship with the word worship, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Because
I'm not talking singing Pretty Hillsong songs.
Yeah,
but
this is what I like, because say you're gonna worship God, and most of the time it's been meant that you're gonna be on your knees like for all eternity singing songs and like kumbaya.
I-
But
that's an
I think worship
expression
is
of worship, but there are different ways of expressing worship. Let's just go there, shall we?
But it's kind of like, I don't know. I think I don't know. I always like think of God as a more tangible entity. So when they come like, oh, you're gonna worship God, it's kind of, for me, it takes that tangible thing. It's like, I don't know. Like when I say God, we're gonna, I don't know, crack some dad jokes. I don't know, like, and
I think it's
like
maybe worship's the wrong word, but just sort of
have some fun.
the options are sort of being one with God, being fully reconciled,
Yeah. But I
as
think, I
God
don't know if you
originally
saw,
intended, as opposed to not being, basically.
if you ever saw that meme. It's not a meme. It's like a comic. It's seeing like God creating a baby and sends it to Earth, and then that baby grows up, and the next picture is like that. It's a person now. It's like a big man died, and goes back to God and said like, how was it? Oh, it was great, and I would grow up, and I met this girl, and we fall in love, and we got married, and we had kids, and all that. And it's like God was like, oh, like okay, like tell me all about it. It's like, I think more about something like this, like
Hmm.
like, and it comes from the Shack. Have you read the Shack, the book?
No.
So at some point, the protagonist is kind of it's a night, and so they lay down with Jesus, and they're looking at the stars and everything. It's like, and so he's saying like, and like Jesus, like he's all excited of looking at the stars and everything. And, I don't remember the name. Mark was his name. So Mark's saying like, I mean, you weren't there when all this had been created. Yeah, but I was there. But like, it's always like very exciting, like looking at, like I never look at them before, like, and looking at them with you. It's just like, I think it's that kind of.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot
Well,
of
that
like
would
to
be-
say with the parent-children dynamic. Like a lot of times as
Yeah.
parents, we act with the children's excitement that they get excited about something, and we get excited with them, not because like we see this thing like countless times, like, but it's like this excitement a kid brings in, like,
Thinking of the first time you saw Star Wars, and
yeah, something like
that's
that.
sort of, yeah.
That's a bigger controversial one. Like, which Star Wars?
yeah.
Yeah. We have the purists, so you're gonna like. I think the Star Wars purist is like the King James only guys.
It was very impressive in its time. That's all I'm saying, because I was there. I saw the first one when it was first released at the cinema. You can work out my age from that. Yeah.
I wasn't
So-
even born when the first.
Believe me, it was state of the art. It was nothing like that had ever been done before.
It's still quite decent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway,
it worked well.
we going
Anyway.
off subject. We're not movie critics.
Well, again,
Yeah.
it's all opinions, but
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't say like you don't have to agree. As the point I was making earlier, like we don't have to agree with everything. It's like something. I mean, I think with most things we can disagree with, can agree to disagree. In the Bible, like most of the time, like it's very few things that we kind of, critical. Because I remember I met a guy once. He was actually a Salvation Army soldier. So for you who don't know, Salvation Army soldier is like a full member. So it's a boring way to say a full member to a local church. And he
No,
was
that
like,
sounds quite exciting as a soldier. You know.
I don't know. I mean, the whole membership, church membership thing is like, I found it very cringy anyway. It's like, but anyway, that's a different matter. But he was kind of, he was coming from a Jewish background and he didn't believe in Jesus' resurrection. And he said, like, is that making me a bad Christian if I don't believe in Jesus' resurrection? It's like, I mean, if Jesus didn't resurrect, there is no Christianity.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's kind of like,
if you follow Jesus' teachings and you don't believe in the resurrection, it probably makes you a very good Jew.
or like a philosophy
Yeah,
fun. Because there are a lot
possibly a
of
very good
non-believers,
Muslim. But
there's a lot of like non-believers that they read the Gospels as a philosophy book.
yeah, as I was saying, if you read the Sermon on the Mount, it's an entire lifestyle book. You know, it tells you how to react. A lot of it is just plain common sense, as well as being spiritually beneficial.
But then it kind of, for me, brings a question that we're saying gonna look next time. It's like, what if the resurrection will never happen? Does it still worth following Jesus? That's for next time.
Yeah, right.
So it was on the imagine there's no
silent.
heaven. I mean, it's all hypothetical questions. We're not gonna go into like debunking the resurrection or heaven. It's kind of, but it's like they're good, like you can say like philosophical questions.
Yeah,
That it's kind of, but at the same time, it's kind of, are we? And because sometimes it kind of becoming transactional. So I'm gonna do those things, and then God will give me eternal life.
yeah.
So
It's
it's a
not how
transactional
I read it.
relationship. I do things for you, and then you're gonna give me
Yeah,
nice stuff after I die. Where it doesn't work like this, is it?
no,
You,
I
you
certainly agree with that. You're not saved by works.
yeah.
I think is a jargon.
But that's the
Doing
kind
good
of
stuff.
the whole thing. Like we're
It,
gonna
it,
look. We try to look next time, and yeah. So
sorry, bit deeper.
yeah, kind of go like a bit deeper on what we catch up from today, and kind of like expand on the idea of like how, and to be honest, a lot of those this transactional relationship, a lot of like people that we suppose say we serve, they feel it. Yeah. Okay, I'll leave it because I don't want to start going into that, and then there's
Yeah,
nothing to say next time. Because
I'm
we,
not
we
going to
spent
need to
another
think through this
45
one.
minutes going into that today.
Yeah.
Uh,
Is it worth being a Christian without the without the resurrection? I think I'll give that some thought.
yeah, I mean, and
Um,
it's also something for whoever saw that in a replay I was watching now. It's kind of like to like reflect on that, not in a literal
yeah,
literal meaning. Don't start questioning or like all this like it's a hypothetical question. It's kind of
yeah.
it's a good thing to like
Imagine
reflect on
there's
it.
no heaven.
Yeah,
It's easy if you try. Yes.
I hate the Beatles. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it was Lennon, but yeah,
Dude,
close
I
enough.
mean, yeah, too cheesy. I think I kind of dislike Lennon, to be honest. I think he was like his gut syndrome was his head was too big to feel his ego.
Yeah, well, that's true of a lot of musicians, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
stars.
but like he didn't hide it. He just was there all the time. Anyway,
So I think,
uh,
I mean, if with heaven or hell, I think that there's a lack of sort of firm, definitive evidence one way or the other. The Bible gives very few clues about heaven,
And we said
other
very
than the
little what
divine
metal says to
revelation.
say.
For hell, certainly the New Testament is absolutely chock-a-block with mentions of fire, lakes of sulfur, burning, and stuff like that. So if that's how people want to imagine hell, then if that works, that's fine.
And to put it in a bit what metal says about afterlife, again, about hell.
Yeah.
Actually, South of Heaven by Slayer is Tom Araya's view of how hell is going to be.
Okay.
With Araya is a Catholic.
Yeah.
He's a self-confessed Catholic. He never lost his faith. So he was always a Catholic. But he wrote that song as a kind of what he thought hell is going to be. It's a very good song. But go listen to it. We can't play songs on those streams. Facebook gonna take the stream down. We can't play copyrighted material.
This is your way of getting me to listen to Slayer, isn't it?
Slayer are good.
Yeah.
Nice band. You don't have to listen to all the songs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe.
as a, I guess, I'm more looking at the sort of the classic rock lyrics, and it's all sort of basically the imagery works around heaven's full of good people, therefore it's boring, and therefore all the parties must be in hell. You got Gillan's No Laughing in Heaven, and obviously a whole tranche of AC/DC, certainly Bon Scott lyrics. So it's sort of, hell's got to be good because it's not as boring as heaven, which is an interesting approach to eternal life.
I mean, imagine like if we manage to make the place where God lives looks. I mean, it looks boring to me. Like,
yeah, but what makes exciting boring?
I don't want to spend eternity like this, sitting on a cloud and like a hippie. There, like
with your harp. I can just imagine you with a little pair of gold wings.
At least I can learn to play proper drums. That's like there is hope for me. At least George will learn to play the drums properly. I mean, I can play like a bit, but like play like Dave Lombardo or like Joy Jordison, like that kind of good. I can be in heaven.
Well, I think the idea of hell being the eternal party. I mean, 2-3 days, 7 days at most. It would just be such hard work.
Yeah, but if you think about it, like the whole thing, I think it came from all the things that the Christians are saying that they're forbidden. And this is a sin, the other thing is sin. Everything is a sin. Like bring a little bit joy in your life. You're sinning. It's like, of course, like heaven will look so boring because like your whole life was boring. It's like, and why someone want to be a Christian if it's like you go like
most of the things that are healthy are pretty boring.
You go talk to someone like about Christ and they see how boring your life is. It's like how miserable you look. It's like I don't want to be like this. Yeah. Why anyone in his right mind want to be like this?
And yet Jesus knew how to party. Big weddings, lots of drink.
He likes his food and his wine. Isn't it? Oh.
Yeah, it's all about eating.
I didn't say this. So Salvation Army.
Obviously, non-alcoholic wine.
Non-alcoholic wine. Have you heard like I never had the sermon myself, but a friend of mine that was a Nazarene. He's a Nazarene. With Nazarenes, they used to be teetotal, now they changed the doctrine. And he said the most creative sermon was the Jesus double miracle. He transformed water into wine and then wine into grape juice. And actually, they believe those stuff. Like people believe those stuff. Like, like, like.
And this
Why
is
you
where
want to make Jesus someone he wasn't? He
well,
never
everyone wants to make Jesus into someone he wasn't.
like. It's like no good Jew won't drink his wine. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
They have weddings that last for days. You know.
how much he was drinking, that's everyone's interpretation to put to it, but he wasn't high, he wasn't running away from it. Like
Yeah.
if he was always drinking and eating whatever people offered him, basically. And that's what he said to his disciples, is to go and like whatever they offer you to drink and whatever they offer you to eat, just eat and drink and
Yeah. Well,
off to the next one.
doing away with the kosher thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So he managed to become too controversial at the end.
Well, who knows?
I hope the general of the Salvation Army won't watch this podcast. Like, we mentioned wine too many times.
Well, when we get to heaven, I will toast you with a decent glass of Burgundy, and you can drink your apple juice or your grape juice.
I don't know. Am I able to negotiate? I mean, to be honest, if you think like our promises, they won't be relevant in heaven, so might be able to change. Might be able to change the doctrine, like for heaven only. Like I don't know after that. But, anyway, so I think we should wrap it up because we kind of.
I guess so, because
it goes closer to becoming Monty Python episode.
Remember them first time round as well?
Every sense of seriousness. Anyway, so
here we are, two Christians having fun and laughing. Shouldn't be allowed.
because we are metalheads, that's why we break.
Is that what it is? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
God bless rock and roll then.
Yeah, so next time, in 2 weeks' time, we play a recording, an interview I did with Billy. Billy she's the one that started it. Asylum. Asylum's a heavy metal church in London, around the Tottenham Court Road area. This is where they meet, but they're all over the place. They're not they're not building center, to put it this way. So we talk about how the whole thing started it, and
cool.
Yeah, her story and the asylum story. Yeah, it's quite interesting, and you should tune in 2 weeks' time at 6:30. And sorry. So we'll be together with Roger in a month now, in 4 weeks, more precisely, to talk about death again, I guess.
Yeah, it's all about death.
Yeah. I don't know.
But if you're watching this now, or you're watching it, well, obviously you're watching it now because now's sort of relative. If you're watching this and would like to leave comments below, and we can have a bit of a discussion there, either now or whenever you happen to be
if you
in the mood.
What's the replay?
Leave comments, interact with us, make us feel like someone's out there watching.
We do them live, but they stay there forever. So until next time, guys.
Yeah. Stay safe, stay warm.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. And listen to more metal.